Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. I keep wanting to change this to the But I Digress podcast, but producers, directors like Glue Man and whatever won't let me do it. But I would like to say this before we get started and get serious about this thing. I've instituted a new policy. Every time I say the word I'm not even sure is a word, but every time I grunt the sound I will owe my curse cup $1. And by the end of the year, that money, and I hope it's not a lot, pardon, sorry about this to the charity I'm going to be naming here, but to the Christina and Ryan Day Fund, I hope it's not a lot, but I definitely want to get out of my vocabulary, at least when I'm talking to you fine folks. That's a waste of time if you follow my drift. And going into this podcast now, without a doubt, the Ohio State-Wisconsin game lost some of its luster, with Wisconsin suffering the shocking loss to Illinois and its bearded head coach Lovie Smith this past weekend. But if you're watching that game, you could see it coming a mile away. Whether Wisconsin was looking ahead to the Ohio State game, that's for someone else to say. As I said on Twitter the other day when people were bringing it up, well, was Wisconsin looking ahead to the Kent State game when it skated past Northwestern a few weeks ago, 24-15? You know, maybe they were. Maybe Kent State, the Golden Flashes. But bottom line is, it's taken a little bit of a luster off this game. Instead of number 3 or 4 versus number 6, you've got number 3 versus the teens. But that's the way it is. That's the way life is. Ohio State has dealt with that same kind of upset the past 2 years and bounced back big time. Does Wisconsin have the ability to bounce back big time? But let's move on to something else. I've got one of my longtime friends. I'm trying to put this in perspective. A guy who's been really good to me and nice to me from a national scene standpoint, and I try to reciprocate all the time. A fellow by the name of Dennis Dodd from CBSSports.com, and you can see him on his own podcast and videos during the football season. I've got him on right now because I wanted to get another look from about 34,000 feet at what he thinks about Ohio State, what he thinks about this game coming up this week, and what he thinks about the Big Ten in general and how it fits in the national scene. And Dennis, are you there?
I am here, Tim. Very kind words. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Like I was telling you in the pre-show that if you say it doesn't count in my curse cup. So you can say all you want, but I'm not going to be saying as much as I can because I don't have as much money as some people think. I'm semi-retired. The Social Security isn't rolling in like I thought it would, so I'm going to keep it low. But Dennis, you've just right off the bat, Wisconsin loses to Illinois. What kind of luster does that take off this game this week? And by the way, you're coming in for this game regardless. It's still an important game on the national scene, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's a story either way. If, a lot of people like me think Ohio State's the best team in the country. I take that back. When I saw them against Nebraska, I said, it's the most complete team I've seen, the best team. I have LSU ranked number 1. Because they've beaten 2 top 10 teams, one on the road. So that answers that question. But yes. I do think they're the best looking team I've seen. On the other hand, if somehow Wisconsin gets itself together and, gets that whatever got caught in their trachea at Illinois out of their throat and they win, you got an upset there. So you got a story either way. But yeah, it takes a little bit of the luster off the game. And the only question after Saturday is what was a bigger upset, that one or Georgia State over Tennessee? I guess that was a bigger one, but that was 2 Big Ten teams, Georgia State and Tennessee. The Sun Belt had no business going into Tennessee and winning, but I digress.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Excellent. That's excellent digression, by the way, on your part. I thought South Carolina beating Georgia the way it did was up there. I mean,
yeah,
kind of a similar kind of thing, and also ran in the SEC, rising up and beating a team that most people have already penciled in the college football playoff. But, let's get specifically about Ohio State. What is it? What's the attraction? I mean, like you were talking about, I agree with you 100%. LSU has the 2 best wins on its resume of any team in the top 4 right now. But what is it about Ohio State that most stands out to you?
That they have, a bunch of things. Obviously, there's a seamless transition. Right now, from Urban to Ryan Day, every time I'm around that team, it reinforces to me how good a coach he is. And it started last year at that third game against TCU. It was his last game before Urban came back. And there was I wrote about it. There was like this sense of calm that come over the team in a time of turmoil. And that was a direct reflection on Ryan Day. I've subsequently gotten to talk to him. You kind of understand it. But you watch them play, and they've got pros all over the field. Justin Fields raises now legitimate questions. Did Kirby Smart keep the wrong quarterback? J.K. Dobbins, who already has, what did he rush as a freshman? 1,400, something like
1,400.
That. Is gonna blow through that. It looks like the offensive line is great. Chase Young is making. I'm not going to say he's making people forget about the Bosas, but I have heard and seen some really smart football people say that he might be better than either one. That's saying a mouthful. I'm not saying it. I'm just reporting what I've heard. But every time I see the kid, I'm absolutely floored by his athleticism. So, and taking all that together. It's a thing I've been saying for years. It's all this. I mean, Tim, you go back way farther than me, but I go back, to Ohio State, the beginning of the 1990s. And in the big picture, it's almost as if Ohio State football is bigger than anybody who coaches it. In the big picture, there'll be dips and, very brief dips, and there'll be championships, but it just seems to sustain itself.
Yeah.
When people say Ryan Day is winning with Urban's players, well, he recruited a lot of them, and we all know what the opposite of that is. He'd be losing with those players. So what's he supposed to do?
Exactly. I mean, he gets caught in a little conundrum there of and some people have saying whether he deserved the job or not is for someone else to say. If you've been around Ryan Day like you have, like I have, he's a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
But then he has the confidence in himself to go out and hire Greg Madison and Jeff Hafley.
Yeah.
I mean, Greg Madison, long time. He's older than me, by the way. Greg Madison is.
Yeah.
And bring him as your defensive coordinator from Michigan. Bring in Al Washington Jr. from Michigan as your linebackers coach. Two things that needed to change, whether Urban Meyer had stayed or not, were those two spots. And then you bring in Jeff Hafley, a good friend of his from San Francisco, who has brought in ridiculously fresh ideas on playing defensive football. He's a co-coordinator, but you can see how well the secondary is playing compared to a year ago. And not only that, they've instituted playing some zone defense now instead of all man-to-man, and it's changed the way that defense is played. Dennis, I keep arguing that I think just as a unit, the Ohio State defensive unit, its turnaround from where it was a year ago to now is probably as great a turnaround as any unit in the country. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, to the point that, we haven't seen it yet, and we probably won't, but that inattention to detail on the road against an outmanned opponent. We've seen it the last 2 years. That's the only thing that kept Ohio State out of the playoff. End of story.
Yeah.
We haven't even seen anything get close to that. Now, it may happen. We don't know.
Yeah.
But there was something missing on really pretty good teams that weren't really great defensively. And you just mentioned the defensive staff, and I think that's almost the difference. We were going to see what Justin Fields was. He never started a game. Well, we know he's fantastic. But if he won the starting job, we knew he was a pretty good player. They weren't going to stick somebody out there, and that's why, Tate Martell transferred and all that other stuff. So
yeah,
they were going to be. The question was, how good is that defense? Was that defense going to be, and what kind of changes were going to be made? Now, you just categorized them. They've been great.
It's funny, in preseason, I asked Ryan Day several times in different ways what his confidence was that the defense had been fixed, and he got kind of annoyed at it, I think, eventually, because he's thought ever since he watched these guys work in spring football that it was going to be a different group, and he's been right so far, speaking of, if you want to call it his genius or his insight.
Yeah.
But and the other thing, Mike Yurcich, bringing him over from Oklahoma State just to sort of, as I call it, pollinate the offense a little bit more from a wide open standpoint. And yet the thing that stood out about this Ohio State offense, too, is they've gotten back to that physical run game that was missing a year ago. They couldn't lean on J.K. Dobbins. The offensive line and Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins just didn't seem to click. Now you've got the best of both worlds. You've got a power running game with a spread offense. How do you stop that on a consistent basis? Well, teams are having trouble with that.
That's exactly right. And I saw them against Nebraska, and it was everything was out there. It was everything you just said.
Yeah.
The power running game mixed with a +1 quarterback who's got an arm that I did not know was that good. I saw Justin Fields play the first game of his senior year in high school. I was in Atlanta.
Really?
For I think it was a one of those neutral site games.
Yeah.
I forget even who it was. So it would have been 2 years ago? I guess 2 years ago. And just went up there and maybe write something, maybe not, maybe get a hold of him after the game. But he looked to me, the thought I came away with that night, and this is when he was the number 1 recruit in the country with Trevor Lawrence, whatever.
Yes.
He looked like a bigger Deshaun Watson with a better arm. In other words, a run pass, a dual threat guy that was obviously the best player on the field the minute he stepped onto it. I mean, he was bigger than some of the other teams' linebackers. But to my point, Kennesaw, was it Kennesaw? Yeah.
It was Harrison High School in Kennesaw.
Harrison, Kennesaw. They lost the game because he knew all that and he tried too hard. I think he threw 2 interceptions, fumbled at the goal line, 3 really bad turnovers by him, and they lost the game.
Was that a wild game? Wasn't it like a 45-42 game or something? Yeah, because his coach.
Yeah, it rained.
Yeah, I had his coach on earlier this year on my podcast, Matt Dickman, and he brought that up, and he said that Justin wanted to take responsibility in front of the team for losing that game, and he wouldn't let him do it because he goes, hey, on the one hand, yeah, you had your turnovers. On the other hand, the other team scored 45 points. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But
a big rainstorm right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I was there when they broke the team down on the field after the game, and he stood up and did that. And Dickman, I don't know if he interrupted him or whatever. He said, "No, this wasn't on you. The other team scored 42 as well."
That's what I like about having you around, Dennis Dodd. You get places, man. You're like Bob Seger, man. You're 8 miles a minute for months at a time. Bottom line,
I like that.
Bottom line, like you said, let's jump to this, and then we'll talk about Wisconsin a little bit, and then the Big Ten. But Heisman Trophy situation right now. What's sort of is Justin Fields at least in your thought? Is J.K. Dobbins in your thought? I mean, what are your thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a quarterback, don't you think?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, all those guys
Tua.
At the top. Tua, and it's gone from one to the other almost week to week. Literally, like one week a guy will be 4th after he accounted for 5 touchdowns, but somebody else had 6 or 7. That's the way it's been going. Now, Tua's out. I've been having Joe Burrow at the top just because of that transition of that offense. I'm writing about it this week in terms of
crazy.
I think college football owes the Big 12 a thank you note because all the stuff you're seeing with the spread and RPO, they've been doing for 20 years. But that's a side note. I've had Burrow first, but I think the last couple of weeks, a big question coming in at Ohio State was how close was Justin Fields going to get to Dwayne Haskins and his 50 touchdown passes. And if he doesn't, is the sky going to fall?
Yeah.
Well, I think everything's going to be okay.
He's got he has 22 as we speak, and he's been responsible for 30 touchdowns, which puts him on a record pace in that regard. But you're right.
He's going to get close to Haskins. I think he had 54 or 56 total.
Well, he had 50 touchdown passes, but and then 54. You're right.
Yeah. So, and to me, I don't know what the word is. Justin Fields a better athlete. Is that the right word? I don't know because of the running ability.
Yeah, but here's the thing you touched on. I like your analogy to Deshaun Watson because Justin Fields, like Deshaun Watson, would rather throw it first and then beat you with his feet, and that's what but then on top of that, he has 4.38 second 40 dash speed, which is what I've never. Dennis, I've been covering Ohio State since 1984. I watched them play when Art Schlichter was here. I helped cover a few of those games. But this is the most talented overall quarterback I've ever covered, and that includes Troy Smith and all these others. Just because he's really, really good at all aspects, and then he's over the top from a talent. His arm, we haven't even really seen him air one out. He's thrown the ball
Right.
60 yards, but you haven't really seen him air it. And when he runs, he just runs fast enough, to make the play, and it's just remarkable. Hey, real quick,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. How much do you think Wisconsin will be affected by what happened last week? How much, because that's going to be the question all week, is they're going to be fired up coming in, But
Yeah.
what's your sense of that?
Well, I wanted to see him play from behind, and they still really haven't. That field goal against Illinois came with 4 seconds left, so
You're
they haven't
right.
really played from behind.
You're right.
So that's probably going to happen Saturday at some point. So what does that look like? Because they weren't going to be a championship team unless they could do that. There are very few teams, there are very few Clemsons that did what they did last year, that just strafed everybody. And a lot of that spoke to the ACC how bad it was. But you're gonna have to either look at the 2002 team. I keep coming back to that perfect analogy. 7 of their 14 games they had to come from behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that. People called them the Buckeyes, and those fans just went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a storybook team. They won them all. Credit to Ohio State. But we still don't know. They got a great defense. They didn't have a great one Saturday. But what's it going to look like when Ohio State goes down the field on the first 2 drives and it's 10-0 or 14-0?
Mm-hmm.
I think I know the answer to that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious. It's funny because you look at these games and there's collisions all over the place. I mean, J.K. Dobbins versus Jonathan Taylor. Who's the better running back in the Big Ten right now?
Yeah.
And if you just look at the last several games, you'd lean to J.K. Dobbins. Jonathan Taylor has the career numbers. Went over 5,000 yards, obviously, on Saturday in the loss to Illinois. But, man, like you said, they had the lead. They had the so-called number 1 back in the Big Ten, maybe some people think the best back in the country, and they didn't use him in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I think he touched the ball 4 or 5 times, and you're going, what are you doing?
Right.
And then they're throwing the ball. I mean, the interception led to the field goal, and you're going, wow, that was a team that really was in search of itself on Saturday. I'm with you. I'm interested to see how, if Ohio State throws a few haymakers on Saturday, whether Wisconsin gets up off the mat. I'm sure they will. That's a proud program.
Yeah, they will.
But we've all
they
seen.
Can't,
yeah. Go ahead.
They can't. What was the number before Saturday? They allowed 4 touchdowns, and I think scored 5 themselves on defense. So they can't count on that Saturday.
And they hadn't given up a touchdown, I think, in the first half all year or something crazy, And it really, Illinois almost had 2 if that one hadn't been called back for an ineligible receiver downfield where the center, went after the guy.
Yeah.
That's another story. Hey, one last thing, and let's get out of here. The Big Ten right now, Ohio State, we're putting the cart way before the horse here, but that's what you're supposed to do, right, on these kind of things.
Yeah.
Where does it sit right now, you think, from a national standpoint? You got Penn State sitting there still undefeated. You've got Minnesota in control of its own destiny, still undefeated. And by the way, destiny, I mean, as far as the Big Ten championship game is concerned. Where do you think the Big Ten sits right now in relation to the other conferences?
Well, I think whatever Minnesota accomplishes this year, credit to PJ Fleck and everything they've done going 7-0.
Yep.
But whatever they accomplish this year, you're going to have with an asterisk. The teams they missed, that made 7-0 or whatever they do, whatever they come up with, possible. And that happens now in this year of in this age of mega conferences. Sometimes it's not a conference; it's just a scheduling agreement. I go back really quick to when I did the Alabama-South Carolina game this year. They are going to play 3 times in 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they have that weird cross, division thing. We have to do this thing, right? South Carolina is going to take a decade to play all 7 teams in the SEC West.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some of that in the Big Ten. But, okay, so Minnesota to date is a function of that. Penn State, I was impressed. I was impressed that they won. I wasn't impressed the way they won. I thought that thing, Michigan was ready to be tipped over the ledge, and they let them come back in.
Yes.
3 weeks ago, whatever it was, when Wisconsin beat the poop out of Michigan, I go, can I change my Big Ten pick? Look, does everybody forget that Michigan, I'll say it now, was a prohibitive favorite in the Big Ten? Yeah. You can't tell me anything different.
Well, I mean, yeah, I cover Ohio State, but I kept reminding people Ohio State, without a doubt, was the most talented team going into this season. And, everybody was curious on how well Justin Fields would play, how well Ryan Day would coach. I had no doubt. Like you talked about, you saw Justin Fields in high school. I had no doubt this guy was going to possibly emerge as probably the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and I think he has done that. So I just kept scratching my head about Nebraska, and I kept scratching my head about Michigan, and people just jumping around. Because, it's one of those things where people get tired of the same old, right? And, but you're right. People forget Michigan was a prohibitive.
I was guilty of it. I just plugged those things in you just said. First time head coach, starting quarterback who's never played a snap as a starter.
Yeah.
And Michigan now a year older, blah, blah, blah. And, the other one. Yeah, we're going to the RPOs and the spread offense. Yeah, that's really happened.
With a guy who's never called plays, right. Josh Gaddis.
Yeah. And Jim Harbaugh, channeling Bo at every turn. If it's 7 points either way in the fourth quarter, don't be surprised to see the I formation because that's the way he rolls. So that's that. And so my point was Ohio State's clearly the best team in the league. They're going to be in the playoff if they don't stub their toe. And at my halfway point ballot, our little thing we put together last week, I picked them to win it all.
Wow.
Because I think they've got all the pieces. Like I said, they're the best looking team. They're the most complete team right now to me.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, real quick, I got to see Alabama play live, like I said 2 weeks ago when they played at Texas A&M. And then again against Tennessee the other night. And I know everybody's remembering the Garantano, Jeremy Pruitt confrontation.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, what came of age, what I've seen come of age the last 2 weeks on Alabama is its defense. And I'm not talking about in a totality, but you're seeing some guys make plays, and push came to shove the other night. I call them those A-gap stuffers. Alabama got it done at the goal line against an arch rival. I mean, I know they've beaten Tennessee for the last 45 or 50 years, but that's a rivalry game. And I'm seeing an Alabama team that's getting over the fact that it's extremely young and has been beat up on the defensive side of the ball. And if they get that going, but I think everybody has their periscope up now. When is Tua coming back? And if this is a high ankle sprain, will he ever be the same the rest of this year? Probably not.
Well, that's the question. He's coming back.
Yeah.
But what's he going to look like? Because he was obviously hobbled against Georgia late last year and then against Clemson with the other ankle, by the way.
Yes.
So what does that look like down the stretch? We'll see.
Yeah, the College Football Playoff Committee is going to have some questions to answer. But, hey, Dennis Dodd, man, I truly appreciate this. It's been a slice, as usual, in conversations with you. And any help that I can give you down the line, just let me know.
I will do that. You know that. And it's a pleasure being with you, Tim, always. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. I'm going to break down a couple of plays. And once again, I'd like to thank my friend Dennis Dodd from CBSSports.com coming on. He's one of the great authorities out there on the national college football scene. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey college football fans, it's Zach Bourne here. You need to check out BetDSI.com. BetDSI is a great way to use your sports knowledge to make some extra cash. That's right. BetDSI is the top-rated online sportsbook. They've been paying winners for over 20 years. The reason they've been around that long is because they have got the fastest payouts in the industry. Plus, the user interface and mobile site is the best in the business. Play, win, and get paid. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if it's college football, the NFL, NBA, NHL, UFC, esports, reality TV, virtually anything. You can bet it. You can bet on it at BetDSI.com and get paid right now. There's no better way to add some excitement to games that you already are watching. Check out their live betting, where you can bet on games throughout the entire matchup, every play, and every minute until the end. BetDSI has a special deal for Lettermen Row fans. Use the promo code ROW100 to get a 100% bonus match. That's more than double. That's right, more than double your money to start winning today. Once again, go to BetDSI.com and use promo code ROW100 and get this limited 100% bonus offer to make some extra cash on the sports you know and love. BetDSI promo code ROW100. Now back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I want to thank Dennis Dodd once again for coming on my show, one of the more respected national names out there in the media, CBSSports.com. Now it's my favorite part of the show. Don't tell Boston Ward I said that when he comes on later, but when I break down a couple of plays, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these plays because you got to watch them just like I did on Friday night, but I'm more interested in the audacity of these plays, and that's a word I used a few weeks ago when I talked about the touchdown pass to Benjamin Victor, an over-the-top pass, I think it was against Miami of Ohio, where Miami of Ohio was in a three-deep zone, and Ohio State, Justin Fields threw over the top to Justin Victor and blew it up anyway. That's a play. It shouldn't work against the zone, but it did that night. Now you're going to see here against Northwestern. Northwestern got in much too complicated a coverage scheme as far as I'm concerned. If you just watch these four guys and how the play develops, they're kind of running into each other. Then right here, they're in their famous diamond formation, which does you no good when you're going against an offense like Ohio State's with the weapons it has. But bottom line is, let's get back to the start of this play, Glue Man. That's Spencer Holbrook, my key producer, director, and play runner extraordinaire. Let's start the play. Let's go like 3 steps into it, Spencer. This is Chris Olave right here. Watch the tight end come off, engages the man right in front of him. Sort of you might call that a pick, but as you watch, that linebacker ends up going with the tight end to the flat when the tight end actually gets up. But here's Chris Olave coming right off the line, cuts in underneath the tight end, and now you're going to see him run right past a man in the zone here and a man in the zone here. And it's crazy that he breaks wide open against that defense. Clearly, there was confusion in Northwestern and the way they reacted, what was going on in front of them. Because if you stop the play right here, stop it right here, Spence, right here, you'll see Ohio State has a tight end right here running a little bit of interference before he gets up. He has a back releasing out of the backfield. So these four guys, they're, for whatever one reason or another, they're fixated on these two fellas, and they let Chris Olave, one of the more talented receivers, not just at Ohio State, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country, they let him boom. He looks like he's running. He looks like he's running a drag or a shallow slant route, and he turns it up. But let's go back. Go back a little bit right here. Let's say he'd run a slant. He was still going to be wide open right in this area. So this was a coverage bust by Northwestern, and Justin Fields saw it right away. Boom, bang, touchdown. And, of course, Chris Olave used that umpire to his benefit also in this play as he cuts in right behind the umpire. That's going to come into some type of significance on our next play. This is the second touchdown for Ohio State. Stop it right there. Let's roll it back. Come on all the way back to the start of this play. This is what I like about this play. Just leave it right there for a second. You've got a wide receiver right here you can't even see. It's Garrett Wilson. You've got K.J. Hill right here in the slot. You've got Austin Mack on the flank right. You've got tight end Jeremy Ruckert, and you've got J.K. Dobbins. Justin Fields is at pistol depth right here, so he gets a snap pretty quick so he can get the ball off. Watch J.K. Dobbins as he comes. Stop it right there. As he's coming out, he looks like he's going into the flat. For all the world, that's what all the world thinks, including, once again, Northwestern in his famous diamond formation to that side of the field. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's going in the flat. The man who has the flat is this man right here. Watch how this play develops. Let it run for a half second. Boom! Stop it right there. J.K. Dobbins has changed his mind. He's cutting now back into, like, in essence, a post cut. Jeremy Ruckert is running straight at the safety on this side of the field, and this fella is just going to get caught up in the wash. I'm talking about Northwestern's, looks like a deep quarters, a man in their defense. And then, as you'll see, their talented middle linebacker is going to have to chase Austin Mack across the field. Austin Mack, who's running just a drag route over the middle. Stop it right there. Boom. This man is now 5 yards behind J.K. Dobbins, who just made a brilliant cut. The middle linebacker, Patty Fisher, is trying to chase Austin Mack across the field. And as I pointed out the other night, I broke down this play for Channel 10 too. Justin Fields could have thrown to Austin Mack and maybe gotten a touchdown out of this play. But he had his eye on J.K. Dobbins all the way. And J.K. Dobbins, once again, uses the umpire to his effect. You'll watch as this play develops too. Watch Jeremy Ruckert run into the safety right here. Keep it going, Spence. One more boom right there. Jeremy Ruckert ends up taking out 2 defenders with that move. And you'll see Patty Fisher, he's trying to react and get back to where the ball is being thrown, runs into the umpire. The umpire actually had to leave the game for stitches after this play. He hit him right in the head. But the bottom line is J.K. Dobbins breaks wide open, touchdown Ohio State. And as I've been telling people, I haven't never seen this play this year. I haven't never seen Ohio State run this play. Whether this is the influence of Mike Yurcich, we'll find out as this week goes on. Mike Yurcich from the wide open Big 12, where he was at Oklahoma State for several years before taking the quarterback's coaching job and offensive co-coordinator job this year. But they just, in essence, gave the Northwestern garbage disposal setup on defense too much to handle. They got choked up on it, and J.K. Dobbins breaks wide open. Hallelujah. Another touchdown for J.K. Dobbins. Unbelievable the way Ohio State, though, has the audacity to challenge some zone man mix, but zone defenses by just, in essence, attacking the middle of the field. And I think you're going to see that continue. You'll probably see it continue again this week when Ohio State plays Wisconsin. You know what? I enjoy doing this every week. Let this play run one more time, Spencer, so everybody can enjoy it one more time. A great play that you see a little bit of, and you may see a little bit more of. Next time, though, he may throw to Austin Mack, or the next time he may throw to Jeremy Ruckert. Who knows? That's what this play gives you. The great thing about having 5 receivers out on a pass play is it's 5 different plays in one, and you never know who's going to be featured next. With that said, I'm going to be featuring next. It's going to be Boston, call him Austin Ward, from the Lettermen Row staff. We're going to break down what we saw from the Northwestern game, but mainly we're going to look ahead to what we see coming, Ohio State versus Wisconsin, the first real showdown game of the year for Ohio State, when we return in just a moment. And we're back with my not special guest, my regular guest, Austin Ward.
I'm not special to you?
Well, yeah, you're special. I call you Boston. How much more special can you get? I mean, Will Krall, our owner, producer, and what do you call it, provocateur. I think he even gets jealous when I call you Boston.
He's my boss, so he's the real Boston here.
Yeah, but
he put all this together, by the way. And
let me see that.
We got Sammy Silverman doing these game day posters, which are amazing. I mean, he used to do this for Ohio State. Lucky enough to have him do our redesign. He's been doing the game day series. Will doesn't even know this, but we're about to do another special in our Lettermen Row store where if you order anything through Sunday, through Sunday, get any of our stuff from the Lettermen Row store, we're going to throw in some of those Sammy posters. So get on there now. Will's going to have to set up the website now to account for that, but we're throwing those in right now. They're so cool. I mean, the guy is an amazing talent.
Yeah, first prize might be an autograph from me. Second prize would be 2 autographs from me. What do you think about that?
I mean,
hey, what do you think about this deal I come up with? Every time I say I donate $1 to the charity of my favorite charity, perhaps our favorite charity.
Are you doing it on purpose now because you're just so generous?
I am doing it on purpose because I got tired of hearing myself say and and all that stuff. Now, when I'm talking about the fact that I'm going to be giving money for it doesn't count. So all these I've said.
These are exempt.
In this, yeah.
Well, you told me that, and I thought that's a great idea to – you went into the off date, and you were self-scouting, listening to the podcast.
I heard one podcast, and I just didn't like the fact I said 400 times. And that's my filler. That's like when you're putting bricks together, that's my mortar.
But I think that's an important recognition right there. You go, you self-scout, you self-evaluate. Mm-hmm. Where do I need to get better as the season progresses? How can the Tim May podcast improve? How many digressions are the right amount, and how many are in there?
And the other thing I get tired of is people referring to my accent when, in fact, they're the ones who have the accent. I've talked like this since I was born.
That's right. That's just how you
fast and a little bit of a southern twang. I mean, it's just the way it is.
I think an accent is something that you like change from your initial way of speaking.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how you talk. This is how I talk.
Hey, I was back in Texas over the last weekend and with my buddy Jeff Snook, and we went to the Alabama A&M game, and my two brothers down there were making fun of me for my accent continuing to change, sounding more like a northerner, and I just go, I just rolled with it. Anyway, let's get into this. There's the dollar right there. They come so quick. I mean, I'm going to make it rain before this is over, I think.
Some charity is going to be – I don't know if you said who it was going to be yet, but
No.
they're going to be really happy. Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe you're going to have to put in a word. Tomorrow we'll see Ryan Day say you and Neen have got this going on your sleeves. Nationwide.
You know what? That's the charity it'll go to.
All right.
Just like I had a curse cup at my house for a while until I ran out of quarters and had to go to something else. There's another one. I'm making it rain, ladies and gentlemen, but I digress.
Maybe you should have made it a nickel, not a dollar.
Your first impression, your first thought going into this game on Saturday, Wisconsin. I watched every play of Wisconsin versus Illinois, and I started throwing out my Reed Timmer type storm warnings of people, you better be checking in.
Yep.
This is happening. And there's another dollar. Bottom line, what kind of Wisconsin team is coming in on Saturday, in your opinion? Some people think they're going to be angry, fired up because they let one slip. My point is people keep saying they were looking ahead to Ohio State, and I go, well, when they played Northwestern, were they looking ahead to Kent State?
That was a perfect line. I saw you deliver that, and it was like it put that conversation to an end. And they can be fired up. They can be motivated to prove people wrong. They could have been looking ahead on Saturday. I don't believe it. I mean, Ohio State was going to be a double-digit favorite in this game no matter what. The personnel just doesn't match up. And in a way,
right.
I know a lot of people, Tim, have said, well, it's not the same now. The game lost its luster, and the stakes aren't quite as large. And, they wanted game day. They wanted Fox, Big Noon. They wanted all of it on the line. And,
right.
But it wasn't going to change anything in my mind. I don't think anything diminished what Ohio State was going to do and how seriously they
it was
were
going to change the number of eyeballs of people from around the country who might tune in.
Yeah.
But past that.
But to me, I watched it and I was like, okay, I'm glad that happened so I don't have to pretend that Wisconsin could have beat Ohio State this week, because I really don't believe that they can. They don't. I think Ohio State, I've told you this for several weeks in a row, they're going to sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor, and he's going to finish with 25 carries for 63 yards. They don't have a quarterback that can beat that Ohio State secondary.
I think I was telling you that too.
Well, we
both agree.
Think we agree on that.
Now we'll see what happens.
And I think that as good as this Wisconsin offensive line is, they're not going to be able to contain those rushmen. Nobody can block Chase Young. Wisconsin is not an exception to that. And I think you look at something you broke down in your film study. This Ohio State offense can beat a defense any way that it wants. And there are so many weapons, and they're only getting better. And Justin Fields, what he's doing every week is adding to the package. It's not like they've shot their gun and they're out of new stuff they can add. There are more wrinkles coming every single week, and they haven't needed to do anything that creative to get past good defenses like Northwestern and Michigan State the last few weeks. So
I'll tell you what I'm interested in. The most interesting stat of collisions, if that's what you want to call it, going into this game, is Ohio State, I think, is now second or third in the nation in third down conversion percentage. They were 5 out of 6 to start the game the other night and kind of fell off the beam a little bit. Wisconsin is number 1 in the country on stopping third down conversions. That's going to be the crux of Ohio State versus Wisconsin from the standpoint of, is Wisconsin, like you're saying, is it good enough to go toe-to-toe with Ohio State? That's something that everyone should be watching.
I think that, and I'm not trying to trash the whole Wisconsin program. I think it's a great program, well run and well coached, but they're never going to have the same level of athletes as Ohio State. That's just not going to happen. So I don't see them as a team that they can certainly win the West, and they might bounce back in November to do that. But I sort of doubt it. If they lose on Saturday, they're in a big hole with what Minnesota has left, and Iowa both. Now they're going to have their chance to get head-to-head, but that is a steep hill to climb out of. Steep hole, not a hill. That doesn't make any sense.
Steep hill to climb, steep hole to climb out of.
Throw it together. But my point is that
steep and deep.
That thing on Saturday doesn't affect Ohio State in my mind anyway. The loss, I wrote that on Monday at Lettermen Row because people wondered about the atmosphere. I touched on it, but in terms of strength of schedule, it doesn't impact Ohio State. And I don't think in terms of preparation this week it changes anything because they always expected a tough physical battle, a good defense, and a strong running game. And that number still exists. They're number 13 in the country. They're going to be ready on Saturday. They're going to ignore Illinois.
I'll tell you the other collision, not collision because they don't collide, but the duel.
Yeah.
Is you get your shot, then you get your shot. That's kind of a deal.
Yeah,
get it from the old days. God, there's another $1. Jonathan Taylor versus J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is running with the lean. He's running with burst. He's running with acceleration when he gets clear. Jonathan Taylor, not trying to fire anybody up one way or the other, but man. It just didn't seem to be there against Illinois. And then on top of that, Wisconsin didn't lean on him when you thought really they would lean on the perceived best back in the country. And I'm just interested in what's going on with the Wisconsin offense coming out of that Illinois game and from a confidence standpoint. And then that's as good a matchup as you're going to get on deciding maybe who is the number one back in the Big Ten.
Think about this, Tim, and I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter at all, but it's interesting to me. Was it 3rd and 5 with the game on the line for Wisconsin? They throw the pick. They don't give it to their best player, the guy that they're saying is a Heisman candidate, and they put the game in the hands of a quarterback who I just frankly think he's
on the arm of a quarterback.
Yeah, who's going to have a very difficult time. You pointed this out about him before. It was one of those sort of flutter balls that Ohio State's secondary will eat up. But anyway.
Well, it's no secret out there that Jack Cohn doesn't throw the ball with the velocity of a Justin Fields.
So I digress there, as you would say. So, but 3rd and 5, Jonathan Taylor doesn't get the ball. The opening drive, I believe, of the game for Ohio State on Friday night, 3rd and 8. Where does the football go? Ohio State hands it off to J.K. Dobbins. They've got no problem. That's the first drive of the game, and then the game-ending drive for Wisconsin.
That was a tone setter because
right?
Northwestern was supposed to, if you played them in the phone booth, they were supposed to win that battle, and Ohio State went into the phone booth swinging. Yeah. And it was crazy.
To me, I mean, that summed it up. Plus, they did it to the left side behind Nicholas Petit-Friere. So that talked about so much confidence that Ohio State has in J.K. Dobbins. I'm not saying Wisconsin doesn't have that in Jonathan Taylor, because of course they do, but the game's on the line. Put it in the hands of your best player and not your suspect shaky quarterback play.
Yeah, let's jump real quick now. We've dissected what we think is good and bad. I mean, Wisconsin I think is legit as far as a really good football team. You're not number one in total defense, all these defensive categories without being pretty good. But like you said, as J.D. McCauley, the former manager for Buster Douglas, says, styles make fights. And in this fight, Ohio State has more answers than Illinois did. But Illinois still found a way to, and how did they beat them? Brandon Peters steps out of the pocket and throws a strike to the end zone against the number one pass defense in the country. I mean, that's one of the ways they beat them, came back on them. And Illinois, boy, you talk about coming in swinging. They never quit. They lost their two best defensive linemen in that game and still stoned Wisconsin at the line of scrimmage when it mattered in that game. That was crazy. And
never would have guessed.
Yeah. So, but I'm looking at Ohio State's offense and I'm thinking, what's missing here? Where are the burps? Where is it that Wisconsin can get after them? It would probably be matchups on the offensive on the front line if they can find some kind of like a weak spot there. Obviously, Ohio State started its 4th tackle of the year, which you let me write about.
Yeah,
and was able to beat a really good defense, not a great defense, but a really good defense the other night. So, if you're looking at Ohio State right now, what are you fixing offensively?
I think it's a health matter only, and I think as you wrote on Saturday with Nicholas Petit-Friere, he can certainly use those reps to get better down the road. But right now, against that Wisconsin front, they need Thayer Munford to be able to move a little bit better. He still played through it. He deserves a lot of credit.
Crazy he even played in that game.
How tough. Yeah, I mean, I think usually you make that decision, you're going to hold him out permanently. Now, several people said outside the locker room, in the locker room after the game, that they always intended on Munford playing. That's surprising to me because if you thought that was the case, why didn't you just start him? But that's not really my business to decide how they handle their roster. But it's it became apparent to me that Josh Allaby, he's had those 2 starts, and we've written about him too, that he's really important as that swing tackle.
Yes, he is.
And I think if you're gonna have the full complement of the offense for Ohio State this week against Wisconsin, you need Munford and Allaby out there. And that's not, I don't mean any criticism of Petit Frere in that regard, but it's just this is one of those slugfests, and you want to be at full strength in the trenches. Aside from that,
I would put DeJuan Jones out there 4 times, though, and let him lean on people.
Whew.
I mean, my goodness.
I never would have thought that there would be a debate.
Now,
about
Mitch
using
Rossi
his
had a hell of a
redshirt.
block on
Yeah,
that
he did.
play. I mean, it was basically a wide trap, and they fired off like it was zone right. And then Rossi comes on wide trap and just nails that defensive end. But DeJuan Jones collapsed not just the Northwestern defensive line, but the Ohio State offensive line too.
Do you think?
It was crazy.
Do you think that they're going to let him go past 4 games at this point?
I think
Would
you've
you?
got to ponder it.
Would you?
I didn't say just then, by the way. I think they've got to ponder it. I would, because there's a guy, number one, he showed his value. There's going to be a key moment here where you would think in this season where blocking or putting pressure on a field goal kicker is going to matter. Mm-hmm. And he showed his worth in that regard by setting up Chase Young for that block earlier this year. And then he showed me something the other night. He was coming off the ball really nice. See, when we first watched him in preseason practice, I was watching his feet. I was just going, that guy, he's not moving like you want a Big Ten Ohio State offensive tackle to move. He has definitely gotten much, much better.
Yeah.
And the way he came off and just collapsed a whole side of a line, and not that you can do that every day, but he is so damn big that
Well, and imagine
you understand, he's so damn big that J.K. Dobbins cozying up behind him and then breaking off left or right, depending on which way he decides to take the door he's just smashed in front of him. It's kind of like a SWAT team always has that guy that knocks the door down, right?
Yeah, so the field goal thing is really interesting because you put him next to Chase Young. We saw that already pay off.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get his hand up. He doesn't even have to jump. That's going to create a problem.
By the way, it's Matt Barnes. I'm telling you, the difference he's made in these special teams is obvious, but go ahead.
It's been phenomenal. So
Yeah.
that's one big plus in his column. Number 2, after all the fuss last year about putting in the Tate package to do something cool in the red zone, why not do it with DeJuan Jones?
Yeah.
I mean, you could – I'm not suggesting that you hand it to him the refrigerator Perry style, but if you put him as your extra tackle or tight end eligible or whatever else –
I want him to play on Saturday just so Gus Johnson can say, DeJuan Jones, DeJuan Jones.
Put him in as a fullback, and then Dobbins coming behind it because we've already seen it in 7 games now, the under center stuff. I think this guy's got a use, and I'm surprised. Like, he clearly was someone who needed a year of development in the red shirt.
Oh, yeah.
To be a future tackle, but maybe this is one of those guys where you say he could be in his.
He could be a
year,
factor.
He'd be gone. You don't need a red shirt senior year.
And here's the thing: he's played enough now that you could still, if you don't need him Saturday, you don't use him. But if you need him down the road, that's the beauty of this 4-game redshirt.
Yeah, and if you think that though, sorry to interrupt you, but they took him on the road to Northwestern,
right?
And they put him in the game, and that wasn't one where maybe they thought it would get out of hand in the second half, but you don't count on it happening.
But you got Thayer Munford banged up, and you got Josh Allaby not
right.
on the trip, so you needed him.
Right.
You needed him on that plane. You want him on that plane.
But you still could have got in. That was the last 2 drives of the game. You said we made it. This is the end. Let's leave.
Yeah.
Let's leave.
Now I know we're gushing about a guy that's you've seen. I'm just telling you, there's a lot more potential there than I thought there was when I first watched him. That first day we got to watch preseason camp.
Absolutely agree. Yep.
And so now I'm not sure we even answered the question I was asking you about, but let's move on quickly to defense. Obviously, they're going to be benefited if they can get Baron Browning back this week.
Ryan Day says they will.
Ryan Day says they will. Gave him a week to rest up. I'm not sure exactly. I have an idea what his malady is, but I don't want to say it on the air because
I am told it was a minor groin injury.
Exactly. That's what I heard too. And he might have done it when he was jumping up in the air celebrating that interception that he then got called for a ridiculous bogus call for an illegal block.
Won't confirm or deny that.
Exactly. But anyway, I digress. God, I'm making it rain, man. I should have never have done this.
Let's just change it to a nickel before it's too late.
And there was just another one. Defensively, what would you like? I'll go first. Defensively, what would you like to see improve, if that's in case the right word? Like Saturday, I'm looking at Saturday's matchup, and I'm going, I devote 6 guys to stopping the run, and I devote 5 guys to basically playing a zone, maybe a little bit of man underneath, but zone defense against this quarterback, because I think Jeffrey Okudah breaking on the ball, on those thrown balls, is going to be Sean Wade same way, Damon Arnett. That's going to be a factor in this game.
Yeah, I think that this is a game where...
And when you play zone, you can break on the ball.
And Cone has only thrown 2 picks, but I think that that's a little bit misleading considering how much Wisconsin runs the football and the level of competition they've faced. He's not going to see anything. He hasn't seen anything like it, and he probably won't again for the rest of the year with Okudah, Arnett, Wade, Jordan Fuller, Josh Proctor, and even what you can do with some of these linebackers.
Wait, who was that last guy you named?
Yeah, Josh Proctor.
Go ahead now.
He'll be out there quite a bit, I think, in this game too. It suits pretty well maybe to.
You know where Josh Proctor's from?
Oh yeah.
Was-O.
Sounds like I love it. Outside Tulsa, my birthplace, and
yeah.
Anyway, love that guy. Anyway, what would I want to see? I think Baron Browning getting healthy changes the rush defense. I got a bunch of questions Friday night and Saturday to answer the rest of this week about what was wrong with the rush defense, and I'm looking at it like, okay, 3.3 yards per carry. I know that there were 4 or 5 runs that were 10-plus yards, 10 to 20, nothing over 20. And the comment came up right away that they were getting gashed, and I'm like, I don't think it was that bad.
Here's the thing. You know this. If you go to a movie, or if you're driving down the road and you have 2 guys or 3 guys just dart in front of you and then carry on and they're acting like idiots, and you're going, and you say bad words and they're not the word which, by the way, doesn't count when I actually say what the word is. Those are what you're going to remember from driving into work, not the other 990 people who drove correctly like you did, like you and I both do.
Always.
And I run the same thing, and you're getting people saying Tough Borland's not getting off blocks. Well, they did a good job early in that game. Northwestern did a couple of times of getting alignment into Tough Borland's face.
I'm kind of sick of hearing about the Tough Borland stuff from his critics out there, because I don't think that it is an accurate representation of what he's giving Ohio State.
I don't either.
And you cannot play Baron Browning 90 plays. You cannot play Malik Harrison 90 plays. You can't, maybe Wisconsin's not going to get to that amount, but Ohio State is not just saying this for no reason. You can't. Chase Young is not playing 75 plays. There's a reason for that.
Right.
They want them giving maximum effort. And Tough Borland, it's not like this is the only place in the country that would start Tough Borland. He would start at linebacker for probably every team in the Big Ten. Now, Wisconsin's got some pretty decent ones as well, but this guy can stop the run. Is he the fastest linebacker in the country? No, he is not. Is he smart? Can he make the calls? Is he a respected leader? Is he going to wrap up against the run and tackle well? He's going to do all those things. So I don't understand the hatred for maybe that's too strong of a word, but he's got a bunch of critics, and I know that he has 0 inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center.
Ohio State is 7-0, ranked number 3 in the country in one poll, number 4 in the other. How Clemson's still in the top, I don't get it, but that's another story. The defense is in my opinion, the turnaround unit in the country compared to where it was a year ago.
Yeah.
But people like to complain. That's the bottom line. And they're not always – you're not ever going to make everybody happy, as Abe Lincoln said many, many, many years ago. I think I heard that speech live.
He was giving a warning to people who are on Twitter.
Yeah,
he probably would have just said to stay off of it. Maybe we should.
Bottom line is, this is a collision coming Saturday that's still a hell of a collision.
Yeah, it is.
If you take Wisconsin for granted, you're stupid. They're a hell of a lot better than Purdue was a year ago. Yeah. They're a hell of a lot better than Wisconsin was 2 years ago. If you let them hang around and be in the game, just like they let Illinois do last week, Wisconsin did, you never know what's going to happen. Ohio State hasn't been in one of those kind of games yet. Ohio State hasn't been in one of those kind of games yet. So that's what you're dealing with. The second quarter, can you count on the second quarter rush? Who knows? What what did Pat Fitzgerald call it? The second quarter onslaught is what he referred to it. The Buckeyes second quarter onslaught.
It's crazy.
It's catching on, I think, worldwide.
I have to give the coaching staff and the players a lot of credit for the ability to adjust, because they've always done that at Ohio State, but I think Luke Fickell, Greg Schiano, that tended to be, even Urban Meyer, that tended to be a halftime thing. Like, they're going to get there to the half. If it's close, that's fine. They'll do it in the third quarter and pull away, and teams won't be able to adjust. But Ohio State, with Jeff Hafley and Ryan Day, and this was brought up on Lettermen Live yesterday, that maybe it's the NFL part of them where you have no time to waste and you have to do it instantly.
You talk about a refreshing presence.
Yeah.
It's Jeff Hafley. Just the way he not only answers questions, but him pointing out, he's acting like there's a tornado coming. It's not like a hurricane where you have 4 days to get ready. A tornado, you've got four minutes maybe.
Yep.
And that's his approach to making adjustments on the fly. He and Greg Madison both. But I mean, the second quarter was a total different looking defense. The offense and defense fed off each other. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. I'm talking about the game on Friday night at Northwestern, and it's been that way for how many games in a row now, and it's refreshing to hear a guy who isn't going to sit there and twiddle his thumbs and make notes up in the press box about this, that, and the other. We'll get it. When I get an eye to eye with these guys, we'll get it done. No, he's probably not screaming. I can't imagine Hafley screaming.
He seems pretty measured.
But he and Madison clearly have some great conversations from the press box to the field, and they're getting things done, and there's no denying that.
Yeah.
Now, Saturday against Wisconsin, how's Wisconsin? Is Wisconsin going to line up and have some success running the ball? Probably, because that's what they do. But are they going to have enough success to make it a difference in this game? That's what's on Chase Young, Jonathan Cooper, Jayshon Cornell, Devon Hamilton for starters.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep saying this.
Tommy Togiai.
And Tommy Togiai coming in. There's the most underrated, I think, rise of any player on this team. You think I'm fixing to say Devon Hamilton, but I saw him coming. The guy, Jayshon Cornell, is playing on another level. I mean, he has embraced his role on the defense, and he has been a factor in almost every game this year in a disruption way. So those guys, but they're getting put on the radar. They got knocked out of their gaps a few times by Northwestern, but they adjusted. They adjusted the way they were attacking, et cetera.
I think if you went back to the first few episodes of this podcast in August, you would hear you were driving the Hamilton train and I was driving the Cornell train. I really thought he could do Draymond Jones-like stuff. It had been a long time coming, but for Jayshon Cornell I'm talking about, sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years for guys to fully understand and get it. And
you're not a defensive end anymore. Yeah. You can be a hell of a 3 technique.
And that would have been a lot easier for him if he got to play defensive end his whole career or 3 technique his whole career. Maybe it wouldn't have taken so long. But it doesn't matter either way. He developed physically.
Yeah.
He didn't wash out of the Mickey Marotti strength program. He made it through every single year.
He embraced it.
You get a guy that's been through that for 5 years, and you're putting him in the trenches in the Big Ten game, good luck to you. That guy is going to be a man.
Yeah.
And he's playing like one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap it up with that. Playing like a man. A grown-ass man, as Urban Meyer.
Wow. Is this the Beanie and Boom show?
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Sounds like, no, that's in the Bible, that letter, that word.
I got you.
Along with hell. But, man, appreciate you being on again, Boston.
Thank you for having me in.
Really looking forward to this game on Saturday. This is still a bellwether game for Ohio State, no matter how it slipped in its dimension with Wisconsin getting upset by Illinois. And I threw another in there just so I could give more to the Tina and Ryan Day fun. But we'll be back next week to talk about how the game went, look forward a little bit, and maybe have a couple other special guests on. But until then, this is Tim May. Thanks for watching the Tim May Podcast.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buck IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.